Welcome to a new channel for the train game I've been working on called Steam Revolution. I've been working on this game for a couple of years off and on as a hobby project. Eventually, if the game is looking good enough, I might release it commercially, but at the moment it's something that I'm working on in my spare time. This channel will contain news and announcements related to the game, and it's primarily intended to be a development log. In the first couple of videos I put up, I'll cover some existing features and go into them in a little bit more depth, and then, later on, I'll start covering new features as I add them. Before any of that, though, I should talk about what the game is, where I draw inspiration from, and where I plan on having the game go in the future as I continue to develop it. The game that Steam Revolution is most heavily inspired from is OpenTTD, or Open Transportation Tycoon Deluxe. At its basis, the game is about little trains that are moving around on tracks between different industries, picking up cargo and delivering it to different places. The things that I really like about OpenTTD are that it has trains, that there are different industries with industry chains that you can take things between, and I like that you have to deal with traffic of the train sharing junctions and tracks. I also like the signaling. However, there are also some things that I don't like about the game, and unfortunately, many other games share the same properties. Something that I don't like is that the game is constantly changing. There are new industries that are appearing or disappearing, or fluctuating in how much they produce or consume. And, as well, there's a progression of technology as you go through the game, even in one level, so that what you've built earlier is no longer good or as relevant later on. There's not really a permanence to what you've built. You'll have faster trains that can carry more stuff, or maybe that there are new industries available. But it comes with a downside, that with a changing environment, you can't optimize your solution for the environment that is given to you. There are several different train games available that will give you the ability to progress, but there aren't many train games that allow you to actually focus on optimizing your solution, and that's a thing that I'd like to provide. Another problem with games that are based on progression is that they need to gate the unlocking of new technologies, and it can be difficult to balance a game around this. In particular, if you look at OpenTTD, money is an interesting challenge to work around the limits of how many stations and tracks and trains you can build, but eventually you have so much money that it doesn't matter at all. There are some games that are based around optimization, and one that springs to mind is SpaceChem. There are a lot of things that I like about SpaceChem. It's really designed around optimization and provides a limited set of fixed scenarios that you can try to come up with solutions and optimize for. What's also really great is that they provide a histogram and a leaderboard, which shows you how other people are doing the same puzzles. This provides the motivation to try to improve your own score. Although SpaceChem is a really good game, there are some aspects of it that I don't want to emulate. The game is a little bit more oriented towards being a puzzle rather than being about optimizing to get a faster and more efficient solution. The result is that I think the game is too hard to be easily accessible. For example, I can't imagine younger children being able to get anywhere in the game. Even for adults, it's hard to come up with an initial solution, and modifying a solution is quite difficult. So, once you get something working, you're not going to be inclined to continue editing it and coming up with a more efficient solution. Especially for the later levels that are more complicated and space-constrained, your first solution will probably also be your final solution. The last game that I consider to be an inspiration is less well known, and it's the Creeper World series. These are a series of fairly simplistic real-time strategy games that were originally a Flash game. What I really like about this game is that it's simple and addictive fun. I've quite possibly played more of the Creeper World games in my adult life than any other series of games. What the games get right is basically the same thing that a lot of popular mobile games write, which is that any of the levels are a fairly short play session. There is a low inertia to actually pick up the game and play one of the levels, because you know that between when you start and finish will be between 5 to 10 minutes. When you complete a level, there is a scoreboard that's shown at the end, and this gives you motivation to retry a level and to do better than other people. Funnily enough, I think that the low fidelity and the cheapness of the game actually makes the game more approachable. Oftentimes, when I think about playing a big AAA game, I'm a bit daunted because there's so much expectation, or I feel that there is so much time that I'll have to put into it. What's also kind of cool is that despite being a small game with a single developer, there's a dedicated small fan following of the games in the series. What's neat about that is that it shows a sustainability to a small indie game like this. I think that maybe the biggest lesson of what not to do from Creeper World is that Creeper World provides far too many levels. The levels are randomly generated, and there's thousands of levels that are available. This might sound like a good thing at first, but there's always something more to do, and it's not really feasible to complete the game. This takes away from the competitive optimization aspect of the game, because although you could theoretically keep redoing a level and trying to get a better and better score in it, you're not going to be inclined to do that for all 10,000 levels. It really dilutes your effort. From all of those lessons and observations from different games, then what is Steam Revolution going to do? The game is going to focus on optimization. There will be 50 to 100 static levels, and when you complete one of those levels, it will show your score on a leaderboard. This will then encourage you to perhaps try to improve on your score. Although the levels are going to be static, there will be an overworld in which you can unlock new levels, and you can get some sense of progression by expanding in this overworld. The idea is that any of the individual levels will be fairly simple and quick to solve. The game isn't really meant to be difficult to complete. Instead, the game is meant to be accessible and playable by anyone, including children. Although the game will not be all that difficult to complete, that will maybe be thought of as a starting point for some, and the idea is that you'll be encouraged to iterate, coming up with more interesting and complex solutions. I hope my description has given you some insight into what I'm trying to accomplish. I am far from finished, and I intend to release some development log videos, where I talk about some subsystems and design decisions and how the game works internally. I hope that you'll stick around and check some of those out.